Hello and Assalamu alaikum. I'm your host Ali Nessin and you are watching Radio Lums. Now, Akhuwat is an organization that everyone has heard of. It's almost become part of our national vocabulary. We've all heard about its microfinancing and its projects towards sustainable development, but what really happens behind the scenes? Today we have Mishal Athar Shah, the head of projects at Akhuwat, to help us gain some insight. So hello Mishal. Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, Sam. Thank you so much, Aline, for that great introduction and
Thank
for
you for
having me.
coming. I just wanted to ask how you are today.
I'm doing great. It's great being back at LUMS and always a pleasure to, interact with the student body.
So, you hold a very important position in one of the largest NGOs in Pakistan. I wanted to ask you, okay, what pulled you into this kind of work? Did you always have an inherent calling, or was there a certain event that pushed you towards it?
Okay, that's a loaded question and one that I often find myself thinking about. I don't think there was one particular moment in my life that, that I realized that I should join Akhuwat. But there were several different moments that led me to where I am today. I have a lot of faith in this concept of tawakkul, and whatever happens in your life, it happens for a reason. So if I look back at my childhood, my household was one in which my parents were always very actively involved in some kind of philanthropy. My dadi actually had a non-profit called Bazm-e Niswan, which means a mehfil for women. So I think growing up, that obviously had a big impact. And I always knew that मैंने कोई meaningful काम करना है. I was very idealistic, still am quite a bit, and I wanted to change the world, but I didn't know how. So by a stroke of luck and fate, some interesting, things happened, and I found my way to Akhuwat, and it's been over 6 years, and I haven't looked back.
That's amazing. So I know that there is this general precedent where people who want to change the world do big things, especially in the social welfare sector or human rights. वो it's a very idealistic thing, and when they're actually in the field, तो they realize कि इतना कोई change वैसे हो नहीं सकता. So do you feel that?
No, I don't. I understand where you're coming from in the sense that there's so much room to create impact and to be able to do good work that whatever we do, we don't feel like it's enough. So yes, there are moments where, I personally have felt very frustrated that, I wish that I was able to eradicate poverty from the world or do something, really big. But in those moments, we remind ourselves that whatever impact we are able to make, however small that is, we always, like at Akhuwat also, we prioritize quality over quantity. And, just being able to meet those people whose lives we've changed, that, makes us sleep well at night knowing that we're doing the right thing. So maybe slowly but surely we will continue expanding. To date, Akhuwat has empowered over 4 million families across Pakistan. And it's been a journey of over 25 years. And inshallah, we will continue creating impact at a faster scale, and expand even more. But it is slowly but surely because we don't want to just compromise on the kind of work that we do.
That is very inspiring, hearing Akhuwat's story, and I do agree with you. I think it's a small steps that we can take individually that trigger the larger cycle. So you did your bachelor's in international studies and economics from Wisconsin-Madison, and then you came back to Pakistan and did your master's in business and public policy from LUMS. And now you work here. So how did your time studying abroad and then returning home shape your perspective on Pakistan and what you want to change here?
So when I went to the US for my undergrad, I went to a very predominantly white campus. And over there, I was involved in a lot of student-led organizations. I founded the Pakistani Students Association. I would do a lot of interfaith work, and activism because that's something that brought me joy. But what I did realize over there was that people had a very different perspective about Pakistan and about Muslims. Like I remember standing in front of my, dorm room. Some students came up to me and they said that, oh, you're Muslim, then why don't you wear that thing on your head? And literally that's how they would frame it. And that really made me wonder that, what kind of an image do they have of us? And it also made me feel very responsible of painting our culture, our country in a positive light. So, I had a lot of friends from around the world, from American friends, Indian friends, Bangladeshi friends. And I did kind of take that really personally, that responsibility. But I always knew that I am somebody who's coming from a lot of privilege, and that's something that I was very aware of from a very young age. And I think, again, my parents played a big role in giving me that reality check time and time again. So, after completing my bachelor's, I knew that I wanted to create impact, and it only made sense for me to come back to Pakistan and create that impact where it is needed the most, and also to a place which has given me everything, right? Like, I've gone to great schools in Pakistan and across the world also, but now when it is my time to give back, I would want to give back to my community. So that's why I found my way back to Pakistan. And that's also why I joined LUMS for my master's. It was COVID, so we had we were the first COVID master's batch. But at the same time, I wanted to do this master's from LUMS because I wanted to network in that Pakistani community where I knew that I was going to stay, from forever. So that's why I came back, and it really helped me grow professionally. I joined Akhuwat right after I came back from Wisconsin, and I worked with Akhuwat even while I was doing my master's. My colleagues and everybody was really supportive, and all of these experiences really helped me grow professionally as well.
Okay, so there's a lot of people that only know Akhuwat as this interest-free loan organization, and they don't really know anything beyond that. So how would you describe what this organization really stands for?
So Akhuwat started, for those people who are watching and who don't know, we started working in 2001. Our founder is Dr. Amjad Saqib. He's known in Pakistan and internationally as well as a great philanthropist. He was a former civil servant. So we started working in the field of interest-free microfinance by giving out small interest-free loans to underprivileged families so they could start and rebuild their businesses. So we started with one loan with 10,000 rupees, and now we've given loans over 300 billion Pakistani rupees to over 4 million families, as I said. But in 2014, we realized that our basic philosophy, which is to create a bond of brotherhood between the haves and have-nots of our country, those who are privileged and those who are not privileged. Microfinance is one tool to be able to do that, but we have to think about and venture into using other tools as well. And education was one thing that obviously came to our mind. So again, we think that अगर आप कर्जा बगैर सूद के दे रहे हैं तो तालीम बगैर फ़ीस के देनी चाहिए उन बच्चों को, उन लोगों को जिनके पास वो वसाइल नहीं है to be able to complete their education. So that's when we started working in the field of education. We have 2 campuses. One is in Kasur, it's Akhuwat College for boys, and then we have a dedicated campus for girls in Chakwal. Both these campuses provide completely fee-free residential education through students from all across the country. So we have a quota to ensure that students from Punjab, Balochistan, Sindh, even Azad Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan are coming to us to make sure that there is that diversity, there is that nationalism present, and we're not just divided amongst ourselves. So we started working in education. We offer bachelor programs. We have an intermediate program as well. We also offer a diploma or training program in hospitality and tourism. Then we've adopted around 600 government schools from the government of Punjab. We also run those. We have a vocational training program. We have a Khwaja Sira support program. So we have a lot of different programs that we do, especially right now. Since given the recent flood crisis, we worked a lot in disaster management, community development. So again, this podcast will be like 4 hours long if I start talking about everything that we do. But unfortunately, people only know more about microfinance because that's obviously what our expertise is there. But beyond that, poverty is such a multidimensional problem that you cannot just use one tool to address it. So we have all these other programs to complement and solve poverty at a larger scale.
I'm so happy to have you on this podcast so that we can actually platform all of the different ways that Akhuwat does give back to society. One question I had was, 2025 May, you see a lot of organizations that are doing very similar work now. And on one hand, it is a very good thing. We see more people giving back. But how do you think Akhuwat stands out from these other organizations? What are you doing differently?
So, one thing that I will say to you is that, oftentimes people say, your competitors are doing this. anybody doing any kind of good work is not our competitor. They are complementing the work that we do. And in Pakistan, the more the merrier, because the problems that we have at hand are so large that there is no amount of organization or no amount of effort that is going to be enough. The thing that we are doing differently, and if I were to simplify it for you, is that Akhuwat is not a charity organization, it is a development organization. And the difference between the two is that we don't give somebody, charity and expect them to fix their lives or make it better. We give them the skills and the tools to empower them and to give them that support that they need to come out of poverty themselves. And that is the difference between, Akhuwat and some of the other organizations that are working. But having said that, everybody is doing very impactful work and work that is necessary. So I think, again, because of limited resources, human resources, financial resources, we have different organizations whose expertise lies elsewhere. So they're all doing a great job. But this is how we're doing something maybe slightly different. And again, interest-free microfinance, we are the world's largest interest-free microfinance organization. So I think that is something that sets us apart, as well as our fee-free higher education programs.
That's a very good insight that you gave me. I think, we often get stuck in the rat race, even with NGOs, which shouldn't be, कि कौन सबसे आगे पहुंचेगा and who is the best known in Pakistan. And yeah, it is a change that you make. And at the end of the day, that's the only important thing. So another question I had for you was, okay, you are the head of projects at Akhuwat, which means you probably see a lot of on-ground activity. So I wanted to ask you, okay, what is it like seeing the idea of compassion play out in real communities?
It's very eye-opening. I wish there was one word that could encapsulate, but it's also my favorite part about doing this kind of work. And it's also very heavy emotionally to see and witness those kind of struggles that I do when I am on the field. And, and I have so many examples that I could share with you, but I think they truly, really have changed me as a person, because it's different when you read about, you see the headlines and you see 26 million children are out of school, or, you find out that there are 80 million people in Pakistan who don't have access to a basic bathroom facility. But when you actually go on the field and you meet those people and you hear those stories, that's when you realize that, this is not just like a headline, or this is not just something I read in my textbook, or this is not just a video that I saw and I can now turn it off and go back to, scrolling on Instagram like I usually do. So it's a big reality check, but it is a very humbling experience as well. Oftentimes, it also kind of brings out feelings of shame and guilt, and I have felt those feelings as well, and I haven't, I wouldn't know how to deal with them, but I have great mentors. Dr. Amjad is one of them who I'm able to go and kind of talk about these feelings with. But then it's a constant reminder that you have to give to yourself, that, you can't be caught in these feelings of shame and guilt and frustration, but you have to put all of those feelings into action and start doing the work.
So I really like the point that you were talking about how we see so much poverty or suffering on our phones or on our TVs, and we just have the ability to switch it off. And I just feel like we've become so disconnected from suffering and just the rest of the world that's out of our bubble. So do you think every Pakistani should have some on-ground experience to see what the world is like beyond their bubble?
This is something I was thinking about while driving to this podcast, that I wish that there was no such thing as community service, and even like non-profit sector or NGOs. Like, I hate that we've limited social impact and doing something meaningful to these buzzwords. This is something that every person, irrespective of their age, their gender, their qualification, should be involved in, and from a very young age. I wish this was something that was a part of our curriculum and you could not, avoid it at any cost.
Yeah.
And this was something that was a part of the organization you work at, be it the private sector or the public sector, irrespective. Because I do feel like that, for example, in the recent floods, there were a lot of people who came up to me and asked me questions because I was on the field. I went to those flood-affected areas and they wanted that insight. And all I said to all of them was, come with me, let's go. Because at the end of the day, the people who are affected, be it by poverty, be it by floods, be it any kind of calamity, yes, they need resources, but they need our support. And the kind of emotional support you can give when you are there with them, when you are lending a shoulder for them to rest on or to cry on, there's nothing else like it.
So have you noticed any change in how people or communities respond to your work over time?
Yeah, so definitely. In around 2 years ago, I was doing this community development project in Kasur. So for 1 year, I was on the field with my team. And the idea behind that project was that we had to develop that town into a model town, right? So we wanted to do all kinds of interventions that were necessary. So before stepping foot onto the ground, I had some reservations that, are they going to be receptive to us? They're going to think we're some outsiders who are trying to come and, not trust us. But the reality was very different. And one of the reasons that was true for us specifically was because Akhuwat, alhamdulillah, has such a wide on-ground presence. So we have, specifically for our microfinance program, we have around 800 offices in 400 cities across the country. So people know Akhuwat very well, and they trust, our employees and our workers as well. So because of that, when we are working on the field, and again, we tell them that we're not here to tell you how to do things. We're here to help you. So we can guide you. We can maybe provide you assistance, whether that's in terms of resources, whether that's in terms of just, guidance about how you can make your lives better. But you are actually the change makers, and that's not us. So then they look at us from a different eye. And, maybe initially they would call me madam, but baad mein they would start calling me Mishal Baji. And that is the transition that happens when you're actually going on the ground and working with them.
Amazing. So one of the most striking things for me about Akhuwat is your work on the Khwaja Sara community. It's so impactful and it's very, very much needed. So my question to you is, what did it take to start that conversation within Akhuwat? Okay, this is something that we need to work on.
So the Khwaja Sara program that we have, it is one of our most challenging programs as well. Because, the Khwaja Sara community is the most, if not amongst the most marginalized communities in our country, right? So we have a lot of support that comes in, especially from the younger lot of Pakistanis who want to support the Khwaja Sara sector, this Khwaja Sara community. But, it's an ongoing challenge, because even we've been working with this project for, over a decade now. So we're again well known in the Khwaja Sara community. We have formed those relationships with them of we're like a family, right? So every month they come to we hold an event where they come, we give them food, they have a community networking opportunity. And it's so sad, but it's the fact that before this, nobody would actually sit down and have a meal with them. And it's something that's so small that has actually made an impact, because they now treat Akhuwat not as an organization but as a family. So, they say that we're part of the Akhuwat family. We have some Khwaja Saras who work with us. Rose is one of them. She's been working with us for a long time. So, she's been after me that I make excellent kadai, and she wants me to have some kadai. But that's the difference, that maybe sometimes when we are a lot of us, when we are on the road and, some Khwaja Sara will be coming and asking money, and we usually treat them very badly. But at the end of the day, it's all down to compassion and empathy. And if you just are nice to them, and if you give them a chance and you hear them out, that's the difference that we are able to make. So in this program, we do a lot of training programs. We ask them what kind of trainings they'd like to take. So some of them like to get culinary skills. A lot of them like to get to learn how to do makeup skills and all of that, right? So we find different partners, and then we arrange their training so that they can start their own businesses, and then we support them for that. And then we do a lot of psychological counseling. We provide free medical checkups monthly to them as well. But more than that, we provide a community, and that is what is lacking for them.
That is amazing. I think sometimes the best thing we can do for people is to treat them with basic human decency and compassion, and that is lacking so much in our society. So you did talk about how young people and their desire on engaging in meaningful work. People like you, I would say. So what would you like to say to anyone who's listening to this podcast right now who wants to work in the field, a similar field to you? What advice would you have?
My advice would be to keep a very open mind and open heart and start anywhere. You can start small as well. There are always going to be people around you that need help and need support. And maybe that's someone who's working in your house. It's one of your, somebody who helps you out at home. Maybe it's like your driver uncle's son who wants to go to school but doesn't have the funds to do so. So start anywhere. And that's what my advice would be. And once you start making that impact and you start seeing the smile and the joy that it brings to somebody who you're helping, there's going to be no turning back. Then you will want to keep doing more and more and more. And that's, make it into an organization, join an organization that's doing the same. There's no right way about this. But this is honestly like the easiest thing to do, because you're just trying to bring joy into people's lives. And I think we're so often caught up in our own struggles and in our own, desires to excel in our professional lives that we forget about, bringing joy to somebody else.
So you talk about how rewarding this is, but I'm sure there are a lot of parts that make it very heavy. So what do you do that kind of makes you come back to yourself and makes you feel like yourself?
So I don't think of the work I do as work. I'm very lucky to have made my passion into my profession. So there is, some may say, some of my friends do say that I have a very unhealthy work-life balance, because I say to them that this is not work-life, it's just life. So I don't believe in like just shutting off and saying like, okay, I'm done. I'm off for the day or I'm off for the weekend, because the kind of work that we do, you can't just switch it off, right? If there's a flood crisis in Pakistan, and we need to send ration to a certain community, we need to send it like ASAP, right? So it just brings me a lot of joy, the things that I do. So I do think that it is who I am. It's not a part of me. It's just become like who I am as a person. So I don't really detach myself from it. But I do have very supportive friends and family, and just being able to talk about this with them. And honestly, the thing that makes me happiest is if I need to kind of refresh my mind. So I'll give you an example. Even yesterday, there was a lot of work that had to be done. So I just went to Akhuwat College and I sat with the students and I was talking to them about, what kind of challenges they're facing. And that refreshed me. So these field visits actually refresh me, because they remind me why I'm doing what I'm doing. So even if it's making me exhausted, I know that it's worth it.
That kind of leads me into my next question. Do you think what have you learned from this entire, your journey with Akhuwat that has changed how you view life and your privilege?
I think everything to put it in one word. But I think for the longest time, I lived a very privileged life, aware of my privilege, but not knowing what I can do with it, right? So in all these years of working at Akhuwat so far, it has taught me that I'm capable of creating impact. B, that I have the skill set that can maybe add value to an organization that is trying to create impact. And so it has kind of reassured me of what I am capable of doing, which maybe I did not know beforehand. I have a great position at Akhuwat in which a lot of people trust me and have given me the autonomy to do the projects the way that I want to do them and to create impact the way that I think is right. So I'm very, very blessed and fortunate to have that. And I think I did not know, like 6 years ago, if I were to ask myself, what are you going to be doing 6 years down the line, I would have never imagined myself to be in a position where, people would come and ask me that, you seem very satisfied in life. And I think the greatest thing that I have learned, and I am very, very aware and grateful, is that I am able to do something that I love. Again, coming back to it, that it is my passion, and I don't think a lot of people find their passion in life. So, and I don't take that for granted at all. So I think that's probably like the greatest learning that I've had.
Amazing. So you've mentioned the mentors you've had in the past. What is one piece of advice that you've had from them that you think you carry on with you till this day?
Okay, so I'm thinking back to so many of the conversations that I've had with Dr. Amjad Saqib, who's the founder of Akhuwat, and again, I learn from him every day that I do spend with him. So one piece of advice, it's not an advice that he has said out loud, but it's something that I've spent time with him and I've realized and learned from him, is humility. And is that nothing nothing is worth stressing over, and no koi kaam bada ya chota nahi hota hai. That's one thing.
Yeah.
So whether it's something very small or something very big, I still do everything. Like, even if we have teams to do the work, I do all the work with them. So there is not that like hierarchy or that sense of ego or that sense of like, this is not something that is in my job description. So that's something that I've learned, that you have to be humble, even if you are maybe in a leadership position, maybe if you have a big team, and that always realize that whatever work you are doing, it's never too big or too small. You are always going to be learning from it, and you're always going to be doing something that is meaningful.
I think that is amazing advice, especially for people in leadership positions. Because I feel like the people beneath you, they learn from you. So if you set the precedent, कि ये कोई इतनी छोटा काम नहीं है, you can do anything. So I think that just makes a very collaborative team in general. So just wrapping up, अखुवत के सारे जो projects हो रहे हैं, what sort of Pakistan do you think you're building, and if people act in the way that Akhuwat encourages?
I think the best thing that Akhuwat does is restore hope in the hearts and lives of those who think that Pakistan is all misery and Pakistani people are not to be trusted and we're corrupt and all those things. Akhuwat is a living, breathing example of an organization that is built on the shoulders and on the support of people from Pakistan, living in Pakistan and living abroad, who have trusted us with their very hard-earned resources, their money. We're a completely donor-run organization, and also trusted us with their time, right? The people who work at Akhuwat. So the kind of Pakistan that we are trying to build is one where we focus on the positives and we realize that it's not as bad as we think it is, and that we wish that the time and effort we spend on criticizing things that are going wrong, if we spend the same amount of time and effort just talking about the things that are going right in the country. And I can give you so many examples of, our students, for example. We have one, girl. We had our recent first graduation ceremony in Chakwal, and where around like 80 women, young girls, graduated. And I think I felt more emotional at that graduation than I did at both my own graduations. And that's just because those girls are coming from backgrounds where they are from extremely underprivileged backgrounds, to put it, simply. And, now they are working at different banks. There's one girl who's working as a pricing analyst at a multinational company, and their lives have been changed. Their families' destinies have been changed. So this is a Pakistan that needs to be spoken about. I think we're oftentimes caught up just talking about and prioritizing wealth and accumulation of wealth and a lot of material things. But these are the stories that should be highlighted. These are the stories that should be on our Instagram algorithm, and these are the stories that should be in the headlines as well, right? Because there's a lot of room for us to create even more such stories for our future generations. And we hope that we could kind of just be a drop in the ocean of bringing this kind of change.
Amazing. I definitely agree with you. There's just such amazing, amazing things happening in Pakistan, such amazing people and organizations, and they don't get the recognition because I just feel like media sensationalism just focuses more on negative things because that's what gets the views. But we're so grateful to have you and Akhuwat and everyone in your team who is working on ground and making so much impact in Pakistan. I just want to give you 1 minute to pitch anything you want to the audience. You can look in the camera, and anything you want to say to them, you can.
Firstly, thank you for having me. I think young people like you are also doing such a great job, adding more voice to these stories and adding more so that we can just share these stories in a more loud manner, right? We need to say it louder, all of the good things that are happening. And there are, mashallah, so many organizations that are doing such great work. And we constantly learn from them. So, what I'd like to say to anybody who's watching this is that, there's a Japanese concept called ikigai, and that's something that I would recommend everybody to read up on. That's a book that I first read when I joined Akhuwat, which talks about the 4 things that you need to have working for you to be able to reach that point of ikigai, which is like the ideal place to be. And that's to do something that you love, to do something that you're good at, to do something that makes you money, and to do something that the world needs. And I think all of us have the capacity and the capability to be able to do something which is, meeting all these 4 points. And that is truly where you will be the happiest, and that is truly where you will be making the kind of impact that is needed. So thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Mishal.
Thank
It was
you.
truly an honor to have you on this podcast and to have this conversation with you. You've given me so much perspective on how I want to give back to my community. And I'm sure everyone watching at home is thinking about what they can do too.
Thank you so much, Ali.
And for everyone watching, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Ali Nesson, and I'll see you in the next one.